Senator Johnson.
Okay. You know, I come at this from a perspective of a business guy who's managed construction projects in the past, and there's a lot of things that this is a real head scratcher, from a number of different perspectives. I mean, first of all, I'm not sure in terms of obviously we have a dispute between yourself and the company. I'm not sure this is the best place to adjudicate this. This will be done through a court of law. And I think there's some real issues in terms of whistleblower protection and who's getting reimbursed for legal fees and who's not. I think those are very legitimate issues. But, you know, as a business guy, I avoided attorneys, no offense, and judicial process like a plague. Mm-hmm. And, you know, taking this kind of action, both Bechtel and URS would certainly understand that this is going to create an awful lot of heat. So, again, putting that aside, what I want to get to is, again, having managed construction projects, having been a customer, it's always having been a customer and a supplier, it's always the customer that's in the driver's seat here, and the customer in this instance is the government. So let me start, because I read in part of the briefing that the companies are required to notify the government if they're going to be laying off or dismissing a safety employee or somebody in that safety function.
It's key personnel on the contract.
Okay, so were you one of those key persons?
Yes, I am, and as of yesterday, I'm still listed in the Bechtel contract as key personnel.
Okay, so were those notifications given?
There was a letter, to my knowledge, I won't speculate, but I do know that Bechtel sent a letter January 14th to the Department of Energy requesting to change key personnel. That letter has been labeled sensitive in the system, so you know, there's a lot of gossip, so people brought it to my attention. I could not get a copy. My understanding is the Department of Energy did not approve that or the significant reorganization of my job department at that time. So today, I don't believe that they've actually made a decision one way or another, and I'm still listed in the contract.
Again, I think the government should be in the driver's seat of pressing safety and making sure and putting controls in place to make sure, you know, things like that, you know,
yes.
You know, that type of system should be honored and respected and followed. Mm-hmm. What other things are there that the government has in place to be in charge of this process that they're maybe just ignoring, that they're not following through on? Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm trying to get at?
I think so. I think I would answer that, in my view, the Department of Energy is outnumbered, outmanned, and outgunned when it comes to deal with the contractors. At the WTP, it's about 100, if not 150 to 1, the ratio of contractor employees to DOE oversight. DOE has to rely on the contractor for what the technical situation is. And when I was as R&T manager, there was not one engineer in the DOE chain between my counterpart and Secretary Chu. I mean, all good degrees, but a law degree is not going to necessarily help with the design of the WTP. So the DOE has to rely on the contractors. The contractors now want to keep their funding going. So they will mislead, misrepresent the facts, and I'll say sell a story to DOE.
But again, that gets to the point that the government has to put in place the controls, recognizing the limited nature of their personnel versus the personnel of the contractors. I remember, you know, the hearing we did have on this, that was a question I had is, you know, could we, you know, could the government hire the people to do this type of project? And really the answer is, I mean, no way. So the government has to rely on these contractors to have expertise in producing these one of a time. You know, once in the span of human history, these types of projects, you have to rely on contractors, but it's a matter of how do you institute the controls that ensure the safety, that protect whistleblowers. You know, so Mr. Carpenter, yeah, so.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Respond to that.
You know, we do have models in this country for regulating nuclear energy, and the nuclear Navy both have programs for instituting safety culture and making sure that the laws are followed. And of course, there is an element of independence there. And that is what is missing at the Department of Energy and the Hanford site, for instance, is the Department of Energy owns the site. They're subject to pressure from you guys, from the state of Washington, and from other stakeholders to hurry up and get it done.
That's justifiable pressure, right? I mean,
It is
Every-
justifiable
you know,
pressure.
Because, we're already getting leaking into the aquifer. I mean, this is
Absolutely.
a big,
Yeah.
complex problem.
No question about that. However, you do have nuclear safety laws, and if you take shortcuts there to hurry up on the schedule, then you've got a problem.
But let me, because I talked about difference of opinion. You mentioned Fukushima. I was just speaking to somebody, and again, I'm not a nuclear engineer. One of the lessons learned, you said the experts said increase the walls to protect the diesel generators. The design change that's going to be made as a result of that experience is put a big old tank of water on top of the nuclear reactor that can cool it and can be filled by anything. I mean, you can get outside pumps to fill that. So the outside experts at that point, not having that experience, would have recommended raising walls, not the best design solution to that. The best design solution is put a big old tank of water. So, I mean, it is true that you've got differences of opinion of the best way to proceed in pretty complex engineering. So,
Yeah, I want to go back, I think, to your original question, that, yes, do I believe that the Department of Energy is ultimately responsible and accountable for the safe cleanup of Hanford? Absolutely.
Well, and it has to be.
Absolutely. So I have no argument there. But I also believe that the contractors, primarily Bechtel and URS, who have signed written agreements and contracts with the Department of Energy, are obligated to tell the truth.
Well, to follow those contracts. I mean,
Correct. Right. So that's
there.
the business side.
So what parts of those contracts are they violating?
So when it's a fundamental under 10 CFR 820.11 that any documentation provided to the government be factual in all material respects. So when when Bechtel and URS exclude even what those differing opinions, people are making an uninformed decision on incomplete facts. That directly relies with the contractor. So if Donna Bushy is no longer allowed to go to the senior management meetings with the Department of Energy, all they're hearing is, we're good to go. There are no differing professional opinions. It's all solved. And is it a complex problem? Yes. But it's not as complex as people would make it out to be. We vitrify waste all over the world. We're building 2 vitrification facilities and a laboratory. Those are standard technologies, but yet there are still systemic design flaws because we haven't addressed technical issues as they are raised.
At some point in time in the construction, people have to make decisions.
Correct.
They have to make decisions on basically alternate approaches, alternate technologies. Yeah, I think those always had to be reviewed and updated, and was it the right decision? I mean, at a certain point in time, it becomes management quandary, going, okay, well, we got to make a decision. We have to move forward on this, and you can have. I'm not saying you can have people with potentially off the wall, different ideas on things. I mean, at what point do you say, well, no, this is a decision we made in conjunction with the government. We're moving forward on this, and.
And
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Absolutely.
That's the question. There's the
Absolutely.
quandary. That's the conundrum here.
Remember,
I
hang on just one second. Well, I was an executive, so I do get the business and the profit and loss piece. I clearly understand that. But we made those risks from the year 2003 to 2010. Those risks were taken. Management made those decisions, and they turned out to be technically wrong. So we have 6-foot concrete walls with commodities in the walls, ventilation.
Again, so my question is, why isn't the Department of Energy, why aren't they're the ones that should be saying this was wrong, we got to move forward? And quite honestly, because it's a working process, nobody knows for sure. I mean, from standpoint of business, you go, okay, well, we all collectively made the decision. It was a wrong decision. Now we got to change it. It's going to cost more money. I mean, we're not going to like that. Dollars are scarce, but it's so you've got all these competing pressures making it pretty difficult to decide exactly how to move forward.
I believe the Department of Energy has stood down construction and a large part of production engineering on pre-treat and HLW for the very reasons that we and many other people raised, right? The question is, how do you go forward? If you use the same business management models that make the same business decisions using the same process and the same people, we're going to end up 10 years from now having the next discussion at $25 billion.
And again, putting your specific situation aside, which should be adjudicated in a court of law,
Sure.
which is the appropriate venue. From our standpoint, what do we need to do, consider legislatively, to solve it? I mean, how should the Department of Energy, as the customer, how do they institute the controls? What do we need to put into the controls so this is a process that is going to move forward, be as cost-effective as possible, but also proceed in a timely manner, quickly, as quickly as possible, but also in a safe manner?
Well, first, let me offer that with the design of the WTP. Bechtel designed the Savannah River vitrification plant. They operate it. URS operates it. URS operated the West Valley vitrification plant, and URS is operating Sellafield, England. Those two companies well know how to build a plant. The problem is that they do not come forward and say, here's what we're going to do. Let us tell you what we're going to do, what we're going to meet. Let us tell you what this plant will do, what we're going to provide you as the customer, Department of Energy. They don't do that. They,
Let me just, are there differences between these sites? I mean, there are, aren't there? I mean,
no. It's nuclear waste with every element of the periodic table in it being put in the glass.
So again, why didn't the government, why didn't the Department of Energy say, hey, listen, you've already got these, just give us a quote on this exact same process? We've already overcome these technical hurdles at these other sites. Why are we reinventing the wheel here? If this worked, I mean, again, the customer should be driving this process. They should be in charge.
I would concur that the Department of Energy plays a role in establishing those requirements. But again, they don't have the technical background.
Why not?
Good question. I would suggest that you need, as Congress, to give the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board some authority to assure that the designs are compliant with the nuclear laws. That's what's missing here, is that driver. They're in conflict. The GAO has done this study. The Army Corps of Engineers has done these studies. They have identified mismanagement, incompetence, et cetera, but mostly they identify conflict of interest. Now, if you beef up the role of an agency that's already there doing this work but doesn't have the authority to, for instance, grant a license, then you've got a problem. Now, you make that so, you make sure that it's a safe design, and DOE can continue being DOE. The contractors do what they have to do, but they have to do it with nuclear safety in mind, and that is going to improve the schedule and the cost.
That only assumes that the government agencies have the expertise that is
They
at
do.
least as good
They
as
do.
the contractors have.
They do. The Defense Nuclear Facility Board has retired nuclear engineers from the contractor community, from the NRC, from the Nuclear Navy. This is an excellent
Again,
agency.
why hasn't the government instituted the types of controls that's necessary here to ensure safety?
Good question. We've been asking for that for some time, and we'd love you to do that. We'd love you.
I mean, that's
So
what,
that's a
at the heart, now I'll
statutory-
turn.
Yeah.
But that's a statutory issue.
Right.
Precisely, well, that's what we should get decided on in, this press, whatever this is, this meeting, which I appreciate, and in hearings and subsequent hearings, we've got to get to the point of what's the solution? What are the controls? I mean, what do we need to do from the government standpoint, who really should be in charge of this process, against those types of
You're
controls
singing my song.
to solve the problem.
I love that.
As well as, provide the controls.
Absolutely.
But for the purpose of whistleblowers, we need a forum that we can actually raise concerns. Individuals like myself and Dr. Walter Tamasitis have an incredible amount of courage that some days I don't know how I went to work, right? But when you see very strong people that are treated the way we are, and it's a deafening silence when they have no forum to actually raise those concerns. And there is no check and balance in the system now. So with respect to whistleblower reform, I think we have a lot of work that we need to do so that, one, we can raise concerns and that they're not just have to be adjudicated in a court of law for 6 to 7 years, while very legitimate safety issues may be
And
unaddressed.
I might add, adjudicated in a court of law for 6 or 7 years, with the taxpayers picking up an unfettered bill of millions of dollars for legal fees,
Yes.
while they are scraping to figure out how they can actually outweight
No, I mean,
the paper
and
barrage
here's-
that will come down on their head from private defense firms who know the more they work it, the more money they make. Their incentive is to bill, depose, bill, delay, depose, bill, delay, depose. So the notion that this is somehow a level playing field is ridiculous.
But it should be, because the adjudication process, really, in terms of whistleblower protection, should reside, from my standpoint, in the Department of Energy. They're the ones that have the charge with safety, making sure that those controls are in place, and you should be able to go to the Department of Energy, speak freely. Again, from my standpoint, the companies, having laid you off, have taken a pretty big legal risk, and we'll find out how that all plays out. But the process really has to be, and the controls got to be within a governmental agency, which always gives me paused because we see they're not particularly
I did go to the Employee Concerns Program in DOE, and when the manager listened to my case, he told me this was above the ability of his group, and I should go to somebody on the outside.
what we have to be talking about. I mean, that's what this is.
Well, then I'm just encouraged to hear that you're ready to increase appropriations to the Department of Energy to hire engineers.
I'm happy to look at priority and spending.
That surprises me.
Prioritization.
That
of spending.
surprises me, that you would be
Oh, I
willing
think Department of
to,
Energy,
if we can enhance government here and not solely rely on the private sector, especially when all the incentives, financial and otherwise, are to not slow down the process for technical concerns, to not allow the technical concerns that are being raised to get the same prominence in their reports to DOE as their version of what needs to occur. So I think that there is a real issue here in terms of empowering DOE so that they can, in fact, be a real player at the table. They don't have that power right now because they don't have the manpower, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the resources.
This is a priority of government. Who else is going to do this? This is a big mess. It's got to be cleaned up. We got to look at some lower priority
Okay,
items
well, are you saying that we're
that we don't have to spend
So
money on, okay?
you will
Let's
co-sponsor a
take-
bill with me to increase appropriations to
as
the
long-
Department of Energy.
As long as we find where.
See, last time I looked, I thought you wanted to do away with the Department of
Where's
Energy.
the lower items, what is the lower priority spending items that we offset for that, for the higher priority spending, which is.
I'm fine with that. I just think, and maybe
Hey,
it's
there's some
not,
bipartisanship here.
maybe it's not DOE.
about-
Maybe it is the nuclear board that you referenced.
How about the
that-
bonuses and fee for some of the contractors that haven't performed very well out
Well,
there?
that's an old refrain that we have covered
I
many
think,
times
sir-
in the subcommittee.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think certainly one step forward would be Congress setting the standard, empowering DOE, telling them that the performance is unacceptable. DOE is, I mean, they're in operation, they want to move ahead, a lot of pressure on them for schedule, cost. They listen to the contractors. You get into a cycle. The cycle can slowly degrade. It's degraded now. Congress reinforcing the DOE that the performance is unacceptable, and here are things that need to change. Just that, I believe, would make a big step. I have advocated for the Defense Board to be given enforcement authority so that when they issue a recommendation, as Mr. Carpenter said, they could also enforce it. Steps like that would help.
That'd be great.
Let me just throw one caveat out there, because I was a business guy that just didn't do business with the government because it wasn't worth it. And you're taking a look at it right here. There aren't many companies in the world that could handle this. We've got to make sure that we've got some people that are willing to do this type of work. So it's got to be fair from all sides, but we've got to institute the safety controls to ensure it proceeds in a safe and effective manner.
We will look forward to any